Welcome one, welcome all to the grand finals of the inaugural Asian seasonal tournament. My name is Boulevard. Joining me is my co-caster SJW, and we are getting underway here with a best of 5. That's right, no bans in the finals, and it's going to be ReRoll and his Dragon deck up against OGR and their Mono Twisted Fate Go Hard here in the finals. Actually, it is showing bans in the bottom corner. I don't know if I was misled about the best of 5 nature, if that was only for other regions. I guess we'll have to find out as things go on.
Yeah, that could just be a mistake too. They have to shadow out a box, something like that. So we'll see in a bit here. But yeah, I do think so. A couple things I want to touch on here. This Mono Twisted Fate is a little bit different because there's almost always Elise and or Gangplank included in this deck. So what are we really gaining for it? Well, we are gaining basically 3 Arachnoid Horror is what it comes down to. And this is something that we saw in previous matches with OGR. And I don't hate it, especially if we do end up seeing something like this Fearsome deck out of ReRoll, that does provide that additional Fearsome blocker. Now, this matchup, I don't think it'll make too much of a difference. We also don't have it here in our first hand. But that is one of the significant differences here.
I did want to touch on OGR actually tossed one of their Go Hards with a salvage a little bit earlier. So the 2 Go Hards in hand are currently the only ones available to OGR. None have been played yet, at least unless I missed it. We were kind of going over the preamble in the early turns. I do apologize if that is the case. But as far as I'm aware, those are the only Go Hards currently available, so we got to get those into the deck before we start playing any more draw cards. I was a little surprised to see Zap come down to get a guaranteed Glimpse Beyond.
Yeah, and here's the first one. So it looks like we are going to utilize this keg here. And again, we mentioned this earlier, especially in this particular matchup. Man, Screeching Dragon feels so strong. We already somehow this Spring Guardian manages to find. It's trying to prove its relevance right now. It's managing to find itself in the first hand almost every game that we see this deck now. And that Spring Gifts, wow, with 2 Screeching Dragon once again. I am very much looking forward to seeing another super high value Spring Gifts coming up.
Did I miscount the Go Hards, or did we shuffle one in and then immediately top deck it? Because if I miscounted, that means we've got to turn 6 pack your bags.
No, you did not miscount. That was top deck.
Yeah, just shuffle one in and immediately draw it. All right, I guess that's the way that OGR is going to be able to play out this matchup. That's some pretty good luck in going to deny the draw. Could see the second Glimpse Beyond. That is going to be the case. No additional single combats to prevent that one. I mean, OGR definitely on track to a very early pack your bags, but not being able to maintain the board. And I think Radiant Guardian is going to come down once the pack does. And actually finds it so quick here.
Boulevard, did you not know that you are not actually a good go hard player if you cannot draw pack your bags by at least turn 6?
That's not.
How this works. It's funny with how maybe it's just because we cast so many games. It's funny how many times we've actually, because I know you can remember sometimes too, where we've actually seen pack your bags played on like turn 5 or 6.
What is
this?
And
we got another one.
There are so little Go Hards in the deck for OGR, and he just has no problem finding absolutely every single copy of them, and is actually going to get a pretty good opportunity to get down this pack your bags here, as it is going to clear out the board, other than the Eclipse Dragon, setting these up to make it so that they will not survive even through a sharp sight. And that means that OGR has a pretty aggressive push here and, managing to get through that Radiant Guardian turn.
And just as I mentioned, Spring Gifts yet again, unfortunately, eating those words because both dragons actually dealt with quite handedly. But hey, I guess you're going to deal with just about anything if you get pack your bags that quickly, right? So,
yeah.
But we are seeing the Sharp Sight come out, and it feels bad for ReRoll to really have to play that Sharp Sight on defense, but it makes sense. You do have to maintain whatever board you do have left at this point, because that's kind of the advantage that ReRoll has in this matchup. You're supposed to have more units on board. You're supposed to go or be able to go wider than OGR can with this Go Hard deck. And unfortunately, having that early pack your bags, and it looks like probably a second pack your bags happening pretty soon as well, it's preventing that from happening. So this might be kind of the line of play and the draws needed on the side of OGR to actually take this victory here.
And I'm kind of curious as to how ReRoll is going to play this one. Do we just go in for a pretty okay attack? We can go for the Protege onto the Doom Beast, say, you know what, if you want to go hard me post-combat, at least I'll get down a Radiant Guardian. But no, it's actually OGR's playing around the Radiant Guardian, not taking the block onto the Eclipse Dragon, and I'm curious if ReRoll is going to go for the Spring Guardian.
Wow. So I don't know if I like OGR playing around that. I know I've seen there's another one. So
And he
I've
tossed
seen,
one.
yeah, and he tossed one. I've seen so many people play around Radiant Guardian in the past, especially if you are a burn deck, right? If you're playing like discard aggro, makes sense to play around something like Radiant Guardian. That shows me that OGR has really switched the strategy to, okay, I'm drawing plenty of go hard, so I'm just really going to try to play another pack your bags here and hope that I can find maybe another Doom Beast or something like that. But that might be a tall task. I mean, or a keg. Actually, technically a keg plus the pack your bags would also do it. So we'll see if he can draw it. He's got 2 more pool sharks in hand. He might be able to.
I'm really curious as to how this one is going to play out. OGR has drawn so many more go hards than you would have expected. Yep. And this Vengeance on backup, I don't think we are quite able to go for a pack this turn. I think we are just 1 go hard off of that still. But, having these double Vengeances for the Radiant Guardian going to make sure that that is really not a lasting threat. There is a chance that ReRoll can gain a lot of life back on the turn that it comes down with a concerted single combat, but actually gets the Aurelion Soul to finally get a payoff for that Eclipse Dragon Daybreak that we saw a couple of turns ago.
Yeah, and actually, now that I've just seen, wow, I'm actually surprised we didn't get to see the other pool shark there. But okay, well, we got a zap, and we have the pack your bags back online. This will definite. Do you vengeance your own unit to really play around this Radiant Guardian here? I don't think so.
Oh yeah, that's kind of a weird one.
I'm just, hey, I gotta throw it out there, man. So this means that Radiant Guardian will be able to come down, but actually, maybe not even needing to do something like that because single combat has no targets right now. Concerted Strike has no targets. So even if Radiant Guardian comes down, because the attack token already went through, we still basically have 2 more turns to just have free range and play these pack your bags. We can't play any units if we do that, though, and that's kind of the disadvantage here. So I'm curious to see if we do see Zap come down. Zap would also represent 2 damage, so I could definitely see that. Okay, yeah, we're just going to get the Vengeance. This is great on the side of OGR.
Yeah, and this is no, we did have 2 Radiant Guardian in hand. Where'd that other one come from? I didn't even see it get drawn.
I was just going to say the same thing. I was like, wait, what just happened there? But yeah, right. This is unfortunate. So
just had a second one, and yeah, now we're going to start to gain a little bit of life back. And honestly, I don't hate ReRoll's position from here because we got that Aurelion Soul. Both players are starting to run out of cards. The one thing about Go Hards is that you're not actually killing anything with them. Yeah, you're setting up for a pack, and that feels nice, but without actually killing units, you are just taking a -1 every time that you Go Hard. We do have the pack now. It's still going to leave 1 unit on the board for ReRoll if we go for it here. And then Aurelion Soul can start to just, build up an advantage, and it's only going to take 1 or 2 sneaky elusives to end the game, but the Twisted Fate is a really nice pickup. Ooh. And Unyielding Spirit for the Radiant Guardian.
Yeah, and now we're below Vengeance mana, so we might be using this Unyielding Spirit here. Yep, it's just going to get played right in response.
Just straight away fired off.
Yeah, this is ReRoll basically saying you played around Radiant Guardian. Well, guess what? You are no longer capable of playing around Radiant Guardian. And I think that just about wraps it up. I don't know if there's a way for OGR to actually win. And that just further proves to me that the advantage of this matchup goes to the Dragons deck because, man, we drew every single go hard that we could draw. We're still drawing go hards.
Yeah, right? I'm curious as to why we opened with the Twisted Fate rather than sort of opening with the Pack Your Bags and taking the Radiant Guardian off the field. It would have still left us with Vengeance mana, and I know that we had mentioned earlier in the last match in the top 4 that Unyielding Spirit isn't particularly common among the Dragons players, but you got to see your opponent's deck list. You know that they're running this Unyielding Spirit.
Yeah, the problem is it's a one of just like Judgment, and that. Again, they consider half the reason people play one-ofs like that is so that people will play around them. And maybe OGR just thinking they're in the position of, all right, I can't play around it because if they have it, I just lose.
Yeah, it was more likely that there was a second Radiant Guardian on the side of ReRoll, which I think is what we were going for. But I honestly don't think you can play around that. At least from the position that OGR was in.
Yeah, we can't even take this attack now. It feels kind of bad.
No, I lied. Actually, opening with Pack would have been better against second Radiant Guardian as well because you could have just Vengeance the second one that came down. Yeah, I think opening with the Twisted Fate might have been enough of a fumble on OGR's side, at least into the particular hand that ReRoll had in order to let ReRoll come back into this one.
Yeah, and this is a pretty safe Aurelion Soul too, because you still keep up. You're at 5 health, which is in pack your bag's range if your opponent happens to have multiple go hards in hand. But you do still have that concerted strike mana available, so feels pretty good here. Again, this Radiant Guardian not dying as well, so you're going to get that guaranteed 4 lifesteal. Unless again you do something cheeky like the vengeancing of the own unit.
I would
There,
imagine
but
we're going to vengeance the Aurelion Soul rather than our
yeah.
own unit, but
Oh
never
wow.
mind. We are just really. I mean, this seems so risky, right?
I mean, I
I
can't
think,
argue it just because he's playing. OGR is playing to the outs, and really, it's either my opponent has concerted strike or they don't. If they don't, hopefully, I just top another pack your bags and I win.
yeah, I
Um,
mean, for me, it's just, I think that was the first go hard post pack, right?
I
We're still
think
at least 2 go hards away, and I mean, reroll can still concert it if he's feeling particularly threatened.
I'm not sure. I think that one might have actually made it pack your bags. I really wish I was
That
paying
would
attention to
make
that.
more sense to me, but I mean,
Yeah,
does that mean that you just concede when you see this concerted strike come out?
probably. I mean, I would personally, but we've seen players always play it out to the end.
Yeah,
So
you might as well, right? You're in the
we'll see
grand
what the next
finals.
draw
There's
is.
not a lot of reason to save time. You're not trying to, okay, yeah,
Yeah,
you were right. It is pack your bags already. Man, it is hard to keep track of these when you fire off 3 of them in a game.
just wait till the new cards come out. We have to keep track of different card names.
Don't remind
It's
me.
gonna be fun. But yeah, so now the vengeance makes a lot more sense. We were trying to play to that one out, just hoping our opponent didn't have the answer. And
Just a surrender out of OGR.
yep.
Okay, yeah, reroll. Gonna go up 1 game here in the grand finals. All right, so we got confirmation from production that actually it is a best of 3. It's not a best of 5 as I was previously led to believe. I do apologize for that, everybody, which does mean that we are on match point for reroll here going into game number 2. Now, we saw this matchup in the top 4. Things not really working out for reroll, playing this indoor into the go hard, but he's got another shot at it here, and we'll see if he can get it done.
Yeah, so very, very excited to see this deck. Again, so I'm actually, it's interesting. So we see 2 decks. We're utilizing Shadow Isles and the They Who Endure, as well as this Fearsome with the Darius put in there. And Black Spear is in both decks. I'm just curious as to why that decision was made. I do think Black Spear is exponentially better from its old version now that it deals 4 damage for 3. But I don't know. I'm curious to see if this Black Spear comes in big here. We already see it in the first hand, and we already see again a Ravenous Butcher start of aggression.
Yeah, just going really aggro on the side of reroll, not even sort of keeping that additional card around to try and go for a Callista level up by sacrificing your own unit. Just going to play it down immediately, start to put the pressure on OGR, who is just going to take the pass so they can get down a post-combat keg. But with the attacks being how they are, things don't really line up for a Twisted Fate keg on turn 4 because reroll can just open attack to take out the keg.
Yeah, this keg feels a little risky. Okay, that doesn't feel as bad. Again, kegs are another great glimpse beyond target, as much as people would argue otherwise sometimes. It's usually a smart decision to, especially in this case, we have no spells to kind of proc that additional damage. It's going to come in big here as kind of a phantom blocker as well when it does get pulled by something. So I got to agree with you. I'm kind of surprised we went with that first Ravenous Butcher just because we did already have the Callista in hand. And not only that, it synergizes with Black Spear. Now, we do actually have another Ravenous Butcher as well as a Cursed Keeper that was just top deck, so we might have just kind of gotten ourselves out of that. But, yep, here comes the Glimpse. So I think things are still looking pretty good for reroll. It's really going to depend on these draws here out of OGR.
Yeah, this is the turn where if you want to, you can get down a keg and be able to Twisted Fate with that next turn, and I think that might be what OGR is going to go for. You can even set up the Callista for that with this go hard, get down the keg, next turn open with that Twisted Fate, and I don't think there's a whole lot reroll's going to have to say about that. I mean, you can Glimpse Beyond to get back a couple of cards, but without a high priority Black Spear target, things are looking pretty rough for reroll here.
Yeah, so actually going to open with the go hard. Like you mentioned, I imagine this means he's setting up for the Dreadway. I like the go hard first because it does bait that other unit out from reroll so that it will also get killed. Now, unfortunately, it's a Cursed Keeper, so it's just going to replace itself with a 4/3, which feels kind of bad. But at least you're utilizing the effect of red card that much more from Twisted Fate. So I do imagine that we see it come out here. And we also have a Doom Beast in hand, as well as plenty of draw but we do have the Blighted Caretaker off the top of reroll. So I'm sure OGR is probably thinking, hey, we might be able to level this Twisted Fate, but reroll has the answer already in hand to get rid of it.
Ooh, it's going to be really rough, though. I mean, you don't have a good target for that, at least at the moment. It does depend on what comes out of this Glimpse Beyond, but with the Cursed Keeper dying here, you really don't want to sacrifice an Escaped Abomination to go for an attempted kill onto a Twisted Fate. We find a Bark Beast, also not a great target, but will do in a pinch.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to sack this Abomination here. I mean, at this point, reroll really needs to top deck something decent. Something that, Ravenous Butcher can go ahead and, or sorry, not the Ravenous Butcher, the Blade Caretaker can go ahead and, tribute, so to speak, to not only just get those challenges, but also activate this Bark Beast now. I mean, I think that's going to put reroll in a hugely strong position if we are able to top deck something like that, but it's down to this draw. And okay, yeah, that is not really what you want to see. So we are going to have to sack this Bark Beast. And as much as this is still an okay play on the side of reroll, I don't think it's going to be enough to really keep reroll in this game.
No, it definitely feels like too fair of a play to sacrifice something like a Bark Beast for your Blighted Caretaker. I mean, OGR is just going to bury you in card advantage from this point forward. Critically, though, OGR does not yet have an answer for a They Who Endure. No no Vengeance, rather, no Ruination even, something that will just get it off the field. So reroll does have a little bit of digging left to do, and if they can find an Endure in a timely fashion, it actually plays against them to kill this Twisted Fate because the gold card could come down, and I'm curious if OGR is going to sort of sandbag that one for the Endure, understanding that they don't have an answer yet, or just try to level it up, and it looks like we are going to go for the level up. This might even just be a red card, but no, it is the blue.
Yeah, and so the problem with this, I was just gonna say, is Black Spear is played by reroll, and it's not something we typically see, but it feels like a pretty good answer to Twisted Fate. And reroll not even letting that Twisted Fate, just like, nope, you're done right now. Not even gonna let you stick around. And I like it. I like the decisiveness. We've talked before about Twisted Fate, it's only at 2 out of 8. It's fine. It's not going to level. This deck can probably level it in one turn from 2 out of 8. So you got to be careful sometimes with that.
Oh my gosh. And 3 Go Hards topped back to back to back for OGR. That is going to set up a pack your bags. And with reroll, they've still got a little bit of time to try and find this They Who Endure, but it's got to be soon. It's got to be before OGR finds another answer. That's not it. And the second draw also not a They Who Endure. I mean, this is one of the reasons that we don't see this deck too often anymore, right? Is you are just constantly digging for that one unit. And while he did get clogged up on triple stalking shadows in the first game, he'd actually love a copy of that right now if he could get that key piece off of it.
Yeah, and unfortunately, any development that reroll does have here is just going to be met by an eventual pack your bags. I think that's why we're setting up this Doom Beast. I imagine we'll just see both of these played here. We're going to be able to go in. Is this lethal? Wait, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We are... No, we have lethal if we play the Pool Shark, actually.
Okay, yeah, I would imagine that is just going to be the end of the game then. Wow. At 1 mana, you're really not afraid of anything that your opponent's doing, especially 1 spell mana. I think the only playable card in the deck from that position is Mark of the Isle, and it's not going to save any of these units from the pack your bag. So SJW, as long as you have done your math correctly, then yeah, OGR is going to tie up this series and take us to a game number 3.
I like how you say that. You try to imply I don't do my math correct.
I've seen your math homework. I've seen your math homework, and it's...
I need help.
You could use a tutor, but it's okay. You got it right this time, and the Pool Shark is going to be lethal for OGR. SJW, Grand Finals, reroll versus OGR. We are going to a game number 3.
And I am super excited for this. This is going to be a hell of a game 3. It's been a hell of a series, to say the least. And OGR finally going to take the victory with this Go Hard deck, which seemed like it struggled versus the Dragons, but looks like I did do my math correct. Yeah, I just had to double check myself again. I'm like, wait, did I do it correctly? And OGR is going to go ahead and take game 3 here. Or sorry, game 2 to move on to a game 3 for the Korean Finals.
SJW, it all comes down to this. We are at game number 3. We have a pseudo-fearsome mirror, actually. It's going to be the Pale Cascade Mystery, sort of the traditional version on the side of OGR, up against Indoor Spiders for reroll. I have not seen this matchup too often. It's pretty similar in the way that things go, but I gotta say, Endure feels like a much more impactful finisher than the Harrowing in a matchup like this.
Yeah, I guess it's really going to be the first couple of turns. I think are going to dictate how this turn, or maybe the first like 3 or 4 turns, because I think if one deck is able to be the aggressor much more so than the other, than their opponent, I think that one's just going to be able to take it away. We do see already too. We see 2 Elise in hand. I think that might be pretty big here, just being able to get down that constant Elise. The Ravenous Butcher kind of shuts that down. So, I mean, it's interesting actually. Now that we're seeing this turn play out too, it doesn't seem like anybody's really able to put the gas on 100%. So I fully expect this game to go decently late. And I think you're right. I think it's going to come down to Harrowing and They Who Endure. And I got to give the advantage to the They Who Endure.
And worth noting, ReRoll has the attack on odds, so is going to be able to get down an on curve They Who Endure, whereas a turn 6 Harrowing, much less impactful. If this Stalking Shadows can find it, that might just be the end of it, as we do already see the Atrocity in the hand of ReRoll, and absolutely no answer for something like that in the deck of OGR. Anything that ReRoll wants to Atrocity, it's just happening. And actually does find pretty much every removal spell in their deck to start off the game between the one of Blackspear and the one of Unspeakable Horror, which is actually going to play out pretty decently for him, if we're being honest.
Yeah, and just the way that OGR's hand is playing out right now as well, we aren't really seeing any like great Harrowing targets. And by great, I usually am talking about Frenzied Skitterer or Wraithcaller. So because those aren't already anywhere close to being in the death pool, even a super early Harrowing like turn 6 or even turn 7, turn 6 we'd have the attack token. It's not really going to be impactful. It's definitely not going to be game ending if there's no Skitterers, because there will be plenty of fearsome blockers on the side of ReRoll. And because of that, I am really concerned about how OGR is going to be able to compete here in the late game.
And ReRoll actually has a really nice telegraph turn on the following. Can take a decent amount of traits here if he really wants to, and then set up for that Cursed Keeper, Bladed Caretaker combo that we've seen so often. Take out all of your blockers, push through a massive amount of damage, and things just looking pretty decent for ReRoll here. Now, OGR is going to be able to get a trade back with the Pale Cascade. Looks like it's going to end up being onto the Wraithcaller, might throw it down onto the Escaped Abomination, depending on what that blocks. But, I mean, the blocks are actually looking really good for ReRoll here in terms of just value trades across the board.
Excuse me. Yeah. One other thing, too, is with this Bloody Caretaker that you mentioned. Bloody Caretaker, as an advantage, is exacerbated that much more because there's no Frenzy Skitterers and whatnot on the side of OGR. Usually it would probably be taking out a Frenzy Skitterer or a Doom Beast or possibly a Mist Wraith that's been summoned. We don't have any of those. So it would feel okay for OGR to have those taken out with a Bloody Caretaker because, okay, now they're in the death pool. Now I play Harrowing. Instead, Bloody Caretaker is going to take out probably some not necessarily higher priority targets, but just targets that are really nothing targets for a Harrowing, and just going to further be able to control the board. And yeah, I mean, we need some better draws here out of OGR. We got the Glimpse Beyond, but this is not a deck where you want to be on turn 4 still digging for some good aggressive answers.
All right, so I like what ReRoll has done here, sort of pulling back this Spiderling. I think what he's setting up for is a Bladed Caretaker into the Black Spear on the Callista. Now, OGR does have this copy of Glimpse Beyond, so going to be able to level the Callista at least in response and have all future copies be leveled, but without one in hand, the impact of that is not going to be felt for quite some time.
Yeah, and I was just thinking too, like, all right, what does this Callista leveling up do? Well, nothing right now. What's it really getting? I mean, what's the strongest unit? Was it a Doom Beast? No, was it a Doom Beast, or is it a Stygian Onlooker at this point?
Yeah, I think it's Stygian Onlooker is the actual strongest follower in the death pool. I'm curious if we're going to go for the Black Spear straight away. I would like to see a pre-combat Black Spear. Yep, that's what I wanted to see, because that's even going to get another blocker out of the way if OGR does go for the Glimpse Beyond. We'll be able to get a Doom Beast down in response, but then that just immediately dies to the sapling that didn't have to go over a Spiderling. Things looking pretty awkward for OGR, but as always, it kind of depends on what actually comes out of this Glimpse Beyond, but I'm going to throw it down onto the Callista instead.
I mean, I don't hate that. It does represent that OGR is recognizing, okay, I'm dire straits here. This is not going to be good. I have to get down some blockers. I need to maintain some blockers. We do get the Callista, but again, even if the Callista doesn't do anything right now. There's just no good targets. We finally have a Risen Mist to get what would count to a 2/2 Mist Wraith, but that feels super bad to have to play right now.
And this Callista's not leveled because it is our sacrificial target for the Glimpse Beyond. And ReRoll looking like they're going to maybe even be able to take this one away without ever needing to find a They Who Endure.
So something just occurred to me, too, was, ReRoll, we were just kind of giving credit to ReRoll where he brought kind of a unique lineup in comparison to somebody like OGR, who seems like he brought a pretty standard lineup with Draven Ezreal being the last of the 3 decks. Does They Who Endure just maybe have a favorable matchup into all of these other fearsome decks that we've been constantly seeing for the last month or so?
I do know that there were some American players, some real 5-head thinkers, some of the biggest brains in the community that were bringing Endure into the seasonal tournament, citing that there just wasn't nearly as much Hush going around as there had been previously. And that was generally the one card that had kind of knocked Endure out of the format. I mean, obviously there were a couple of other factors behind it, but I mean, Hush is a pretty big one into that. So with less Targon in the meta, or rather with less Targon that's playing Hush, yeah, Endure seems like a pretty good deck. So I actually am a little surprised that ReRoll has managed to make it this far with so many Dragon decks running around. And I would imagine that he's just banning out those Dragon decks. We saw it time and time again, ReRoll just taking that off the table for his opponents. So really paying the respects to Hush, and it got him this far. And honestly, he feels like he's in a good position to just win the entire tournament with Endure Spiders.
Yeah, but I will say, okay,
found the Endure. I mean, that's as good as game, right?
I don't see why not. I was literally just going to say we still don't have Endure, so there could still be a window for Harrowing now that we have a Skitterer, but that's not looking like it's going to be the case here.
There's no reason not to play the real one, hit your opponent, and throw down the Atrocity on the next turn. It feels a little early to call it, but I'm feeling really good about ReRoll. I cannot believe that ReRoll found it just in time for turn 7.
Yep. And there's the thing, too, like in this particular matchup, and we were talking about this earlier, where you feel kind of safe to develop versus something like Fearsome. There's no removal. You have your spells consist of Glimpse Beyond, Mark of the Isle, Pale Cascade. Your followers don't remove anything. So when you throw down this They Who Endure, the attack is going through. Like, the only question is, are they able to kind of save face a little bit? Maybe play a Mark of the Isles and a Pale Cascade to save 3 health. But that feels really bad or it feels good for you if you're getting it out of your opponent. So yeah, They Who Endure is almost a certainty at this point.
Yeah, and OGR just going in for the attacks knows that they have no answer to the Endure. If ReRoll has it, then they have it. There's nothing that you can do to stop that. And this 11/11 Endure, that's going to be a massive hit, and we might not even need the Atrocity, SJW. This might just be lethal here. I think if we want to really commit, we could Skitterer and Risen Mist to survive. But regardless of the Atrocity in ReRoll's hand, you're not killing this Endure anytime soon. You would run yourself out of mana, so you can't even Harrowing if you top deck it.
Yeah, you want to know what feels bad when hearing the statement Skitterer and Risen Mist to survive. That's usually not the way you want to phrase that. It should be Skitterer and Risen Mist for like going face. And that's not the situation that we're in on the side of OGR, and it feels really bad. We're just on the back foot here. Even a top deck Harrowing, I don't think does anything at this point for OGR.
No, that is going to be it. With no Vengeance in the deck, with no Hush in that Targon list, the Callista can level. It can do whatever it wants. It doesn't matter what it pulls. The Wraithcaller is irrelevant because the Atrocity in the hand of ReRoll secures his fate as the inaugural Asian Seasonal Tournament champion.
Yeah, I think you're right, Boulevard. We are going to be crowning ReRoll here. It's just a matter of time. While OGR, we see this so many times from players, just kind of coming to terms with their defeat. they think for a little bit. They go, "Oh man, this is going to be it, isn't it?" And I guess the question is for ReRoll: do you just rip it? Do you just say, you know what? I know you don't have an answer. I'm just going to play the Atrocity.
With absolutely no punish, yeah, I would imagine that the first priority sequence that ReRoll gets is going to be the lethal. And even if by some stretch of the imagination it didn't work, there is another Endure, as well as an elusive with a Mark of the Isle in hand. OGR just understanding that they are dead to this, not going for the Doom Beast, just going to try and present as wide a board as possible. There is the Mist Wraith. I would imagine this is just a snap Atrocity out of ReRoll. There it is, lined up, and that is a victory for ReRoll.
GG's ReRoll gonna be your Asian seasonal tournament winner.